find you and make you want me. Ready or not, here I come. You can't hide. Gonna find you and make me.
Bible, here we go.
Here I come. You can't hide. Gonna find you and make you want me.
I know. Forgive your sister. I got a little nerd in me, but ready or not, polygyny is here. We gotta accept it. And that's why the Most High has raised sisters like me to talk to you all, get right back to it. We gotta prepare for it. Prepare for marriage, prepare for our lives in the future. If we have to share a man, we gotta share a man. How do we do that in a godly way? How do we also glorify the Lord in our singleness, sisters? And what are we doing right now to bear fruits for the kingdom? This is what Call for Wisdom is all about. Okay, so ready or not? Here we come. Pull out your Bible because this is a new channel and I am not that fancy tech yet. I'll get there. Just bear with me. We're going straight into it. Continue with the conversation about the promised land, sexual marketplace value, and we women, our sisters who, like me, are in our 50s, so 40 and up, you are entered into the promised land. And the first thing I got to say is congratulations. The second feel is I feel for you. I do. Because it's disappointing. Let's be honest. There's a whole bunch of giants in the land. Just like when Israel had 40 years in the wilderness, and they got all the people who doubted the Lord and who didn't want to serve the Messiah, follow the commandments, they died. And then Joshua rounded up the rest who survived, and he crossed over the Jordan. And they were, looking forward to the milk and honey. But guess what? Not only was there milk and honey in the promised land, there was giants. And that's what it's kind of like for us women who are now middle-aged. Past our sexual marketplace value, in a sense. I mean, I know, sisters, you're gonna be, some of you are gonna be more sexually appealing to men than others. Some of us, I am what I am, right? And that is not what it's about anymore, because I've entered the promised land and I got different giants. It's beyond now finding a husband. It's now, I can't have any children at my age. I don't have any children, if you want to know about me, but I don't really want to talk about that yet. And the giants might be financial giants for some of you, that you have to now make your way through the world. You might have to take care of your own housing. You have to start working harder because there's no man to help support you. And then there's the giants of the storms around. What life throws you, health issues, parents getting older, children needing to go to university, problems with your ex, problems with your boyfriends, which you shouldn't have at this age. But anyways, traumas from the past. You still got the giants in the promised land. Ready or not, you're in it. You crossed over the Jordan. Congratulations. You are there with the rest of us. It is the promised land on earth. Yeah, you're not in the wrong spot. It is what it is. But it's what we really have to face is those giants, right? And on top of that, we also have to face our regrets. It is what it is. And I love to say that to the sisters who passed that. It's like, this is the time when we have to sit and accept the seeds have borne fruits in our life. Whatever you planted in your 20s and in your 30s, my sisters, my lovely sisters, we have planted some things that we have regretted in our lives. We've allowed to be planted from the farmers, and some of you have multiple baby daddy farmers who planted different seeds. And I'm not even talking about their children, but now you have to stick with these men because they're in your life because of your kids, right? And also just multiple regrets. Like, I wish I didn't spend so much time in university. That's just one of my regrets in a sense, but by the way, for those of you who don't know my channel yet, yes, I've had marriage. I was married. I am 25 years, lots of things to talk about later, but I know what it's like to have a difficult marriage. I know what it's like to have also not have any children. I do know what it's like to suffer from a sense of regretting not making the right choices when I was younger, because there was nobody in my life speaking to me like I am trying to speak to you. You know, there was no woman. There was a man though, and he, God rest his soul, my Uncle David. He actually had several quiet, intimate conversations with me about the necessity of me to have children and to really focus on that. Although I was married, like to have kids, and I didn't think about it. I thought I could be fertile all in my 50s. And look at me now! But the whole point is that you got to wake up from your slumber. Wake up from your sleep. And this is the things that happens when we cross over into the promised land. Number one, disappointments and regrets. Number two, giants in the land. And number three, we are still sleeping. And if you're still sleeping, wake up. Stop it. Just wake up. Because whether or not we got to accept what it is, right? We got to come to the conclusion at the end of this whole talk. If we keep on with the Bible study with me, sisters, we are going to be godly and contentment goal. Being godly and contentment is my goal. You know, continually living my life for the Most High and learning to be content with the circumstances that I have in my life, growing to be more and more godly like the Most High, and content with what I've had, what plants are reaping, asking the Most High to farm it out of me what He can. So this is what we're going to get to at the end. But right now, you welcome to the promised land, you younger sisters who have just hit, past the wall, went through the wilderness, went through the 30, 35-year-old stage, and you're really were desperate to find somebody, you didn't find somebody. Now you're in the promised land. This is my little definition. If you don't like it, send me a note in the chat. And while you're at it, hit me up with a like, please. I know it's a new channel and you're taking a risk on me, but let's continue, okay? So moving on, we want to open the Word of God about some of these issues in our lives. And how do we face the giants, right? How did Israel face the giants? I think they sent scouts out. So I'm like one of your scouts telling you, hey, by the way, there's giants in the land. There's problems when you hit 40. So what can you do with the scouts going out there? Well, they come back and they give you hope, right? They keep you hope that although these monsters are really too tough for you, you have the Most High on your side. You are a Hebrew woman, a woman of faith, who believes in the Most High, and you are not alone in that regard. You're not like the world, because if you're atheists out there, I feel for you. If you don't have the faith of the Most High in your life, and you're doing this all on your willpower of independent woman thing, feminism is your power or whatever way, you're not using the support of the Most High, then I feel for you, because this is going to be a harder conversation. Now, as a counselor in the past, if you know me, I have been able to listen through women coming through all kinds of faith in their ideologies. And I just listen, because I'm a counselor, I just keep it quiet. But here I am on YouTube. I can tell you what I stand for, right? And I'm telling you, you need to seek the Most High. You need to have a relationship with Him. And if you have the opportunity to come under the umbrella of a good shepherd, under the umbrella of a good man, do not discount the opportunities that you have, because your life indeed is short. Your life on this earth is short. And you still have the obligations to do the best you can with it. And it's a lot easier to be done with the help of a good shepherd. And he doesn't need to be perfect, because you are not perfect, sis. You're not perfect. So even if you miss the opportunities in your 30s and you're getting it now in your 40s and your 50s, tell me, sisters, is this the realistic time to be more picky? Or is it time to be more rational? Dare I say more reasonable with our expectations of this farmer and what we want out of him, and who we are, reasonable, rational, humble about who we are at this stage in our life. We are not the 20-year-old hot lady over there. We are, everything's just lacking. I don't care how much you go to the gym. You might look really good. Give it 10 more years. We're changing. Our body is changing. We're becoming less fertile. Now, it doesn't mean that men will not still want us. So that's my next point on this little discussion. Welcome to the promised land, but wake up from your slumber and also look out for the giants, the trouble ahead, right? But also, let's just also wake up to the fact that there are 4 things about women that we should know at this age really, really well. 4 things about women. Number 1, we're breakable. Number 2, we are bangable at any age. Number 3, we are moldable when we're young. And number 4, we are refinable when we are older. Should I say that again? Because I don't have a little screen to remind you. Number 1, we are breakable. Number 2, we are bangable. No matter how ugly you are, actually you are. Bangable. Number 3, some of us are moldable. And number 4, we are definitely refinable. Number 1, coming back to that, breakable. I mean, the Bible talks about women as being the weaker vessel. That's what Paul says. And he tells their husbands to take good care of us because we are weaker. Now, evolution is not in this picture now. We know that Eve was made weaker than Adam. I don't need to tell you that. It's a fact. You go to the gym, you see men with muscles. Who's going to the front line of the war? Who builds the infrastructure of this society that we are living in? Is it not the men? I don't need to prove this to you. When you have problems, you call the fireman. When you need help with somebody robbing your house, you would prefer a male officer to come to your rescue. When there's a war to be fought, we send the men. Men are physically stronger than us in all ways. They are able to also handle the storms of life. They don't actually need the kind of umbrella that we need. They need the Most High, and they need Yeshua, Jesus, the King, but they shelter us because they have been given the ability to shelter women, built in them, the strength, the authority, the power, the aggressiveness. They have the ability to protect us. And if you find a good one, you got to realize that because you as a woman want to be who you are, which is automatically more breakable, in so many ways you need to have shelter. You shouldn't be out there on the streets. That's why a good father was our shelter as females when we were growing up, and we still need shelter now, right? Because we're beautiful vases like that. Think of it, if you have a crystal vase, it's really, really expensive. You're going to put it in a really good place. You don't want anybody to just come around and knock it off the table. You got to be careful. It's expensive. It's breakable. It's beautiful. And that's who we are. Now I say this because some of us are accused of breaking our own selves by the stupid decisions that we've made. Number 2, coming to the bangable part. Somehow we think that because we are beautiful, and I am beautiful too, I was more so when I was 20, I had the pretty privilege, believe it or not. I know I'm changed. So we think that, okay, we're beautiful, men want to sleep with us. But let me tell you, sisters, as long as you got the equipment of femininity in you and biologically look like a woman, most women are bangable. Meaning that most men will hit that. It doesn't matter if he's a Chad, a number 10 man, looking great, rich, or the poor one on the street. Either one, if they got some testosterone running in there, they will hit it. So just the mere fact that you are physically attractive, doesn't mean that you should allow somebody to bang you. I know. But we're bangable. Come on, sisters, we're bangable. So even if you're fat and you're getting all this attention, because even if you're obese, men will still hit that up. Now, they might not publicly want to tell their friends that. Keep that in mind. They might still be ashamed of you, and that's why they're not settling into marrying you or trying to even have the hint of commitment to you. But all women are bangable. Most women are bangable. And we also bang ourselves with the hookup culture. Giving ourselves blows, acting like hoes. I mean farmer hoes, On the street twerking, doing all that nonsense. Yes, I know. I am conservative. I know, my friends know me, so come on, I'm just going to tell you as it is, sisters. You bang your own self. Forget about the men banging you. You're out there doing it yourself. And then after you've gone through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different kinds of bangs, you can't expect to be not bruised because, number 1, you are breakable. Breakable and bangable. You see the results? Yeah, it doesn't turn out good for us women, right? And if you're continuing that into the promised land and you haven't learned that yet, then you're like a pile of rubble in your 50s. And you expect a farmer to come around your farm and purchase that pile of rubble over there full of rocks. I mean, there's no soil, just full of bad regrets, a lot of knocking around, a lot of sleeping around, a lot of regrets that you can't actually change. Like we talked before, you can't change your age, you can't change your previous owners. That means the men who have slept with you. Your body can't be changed. You can't change who has grown up on your field. We're talking about sexual marketplace value. Women are fields. If you had other seeds, sexual seeds implanted in that field, you got babies. You can't change the fact that you now have 1 or 2, 3, 4, 5 different babies, sometimes with different men. But that can't be changed, right? So now we're in our 40s learning to accept that we have these things in our land, and learning to accept the regrets, but also accept the fact that it is what it is. Can't change that. But we can't also expect a high price for these, unfortunately, devalued land property when it comes to sexual marketplace property, right? Sexual, not spiritual, because hopefully at the end of this conversation we'll hit it up on the spiritual one, and that still has a lot of hope. But the sexual one has minimum hope, and therefore, if you find a good looking, doesn't really need to be 5'6" or 7, whatever. He doesn't need to be perfect, sisters. And you guys here are trying to hit me with all kinds of excuses saying that you want 6-packs at 50 or 40 or whatever. You want the man to be looking like, gorgeous. Mind you, he should be attracted to you, because his attraction to you is more important than your physical attraction to him. And in our imagination, women, we know that we can fantasize. We can make a man look like a 10 in our imagination. Our imagination is powerful thanks to the way that the Most High has made us, women. We can turn ourselves in our mind and make up stories and make up the whole man, so that the less he speaks, the better. It's like, I dreamt of you as a prince. You just hush it up, because you look like one. But the whole point is that in your mind, you can tolerate a lot more than you realize if you use some of your imagination. I say that in a serious way, so that you will not have such high expectations for a farmer in the physical way when you were past 40 and in the promised land. And you still need covering. I'm not saying you don't. If you find one that's willing to do so and he no longer meets your physical requirements, then it's time to be realistic, because you also don't meet his physical requirements. Trust me. And you will not be doing so when you're 80, if the Lord grants you that much life, right? 80, 90, what do you think you have? Go on. Let's wake up from our slumber. We are no longer there. So, but before that, and even so, we're still bangable, because they will still have sex with you even in the promised land. Ages, bangable. Women are bangable. We're breakable. But we are also moldable, some of us. Caveat, some of us. Like clay. Young, fresh clay out of the ground, young ones, 18-year-olds to 20, 25-year-olds. Very moldable. The same thing we're accusing a man of abusing is what God has made them to be. Yah has made women to be able to mold around Adam. Even in a sexual way. You know what I'm talking about. We can mold. We can adjust ourselves to fit where it needs to be, right? We are able to follow the captain's orders easier. We are able to follow the shepherd's direction, and we are able to just adjust to the farmers in our land, i.e. husbands. We are able to do that because we don't have any hardness in our hearts yet. And we're able to do that because we have not bought into the independence of my way only. We go into our husband's frame, so we stand by his side, and we can mold into his personality. And let me tell you a secret, sisters, before I get too turned off. Coming up soon in episodes coming to you, is going to be talks about the effect of sperm, men Y chromosome sperm, and how it changes who you are. I tell you, sisters, the science behind that, they are hiding it. There's so much research being done about how when you have sexual partners, how each male partner is changing who you are. He's leaving pieces of himself, his person in you, and changing who you are, and you mold to that. Now, take it in a good way if you only had one. it's a little bit more confusing when you have two, but you can handle that. But when you start adding 3 and 4 and 5 different personalities in sperm, no wonder we are so confused when we're in our 40s. May I say, in my professional psychology way, that might contribute to the rise in psychological mental issues that my sisters are facing because nobody wanted to speak the truth. We are not made to be out on the streets. We are not made to be banged around. We are breakable, fragile in so many dimensions, so many levels. And if you can still tolerate colloquialism when I tell you the truth, then congratulations on still being here. Like, subscribe, and leave a comment about my little thing about sperm. If you know more about it, send me links, send me emails, because I tell you, the man's sperm changes you. His DNA changes you, and you end up being like a little bit like him that you didn't even realize because you were made like clay to be molded to the potter's will. And so all of a sudden, things that you like are now reflecting what he likes. All of a sudden, the way he thinks, a little bit, you're thinking the same way. All of a sudden, you're laughing at his stupid jokes. And his personality becomes a little bit like yours, It's amazing. So not only does his children, when they're born in you, reflect him, but you started to reflect him. And so we are moldable in so many levels. I'm just hitting these points on you. The fourth thing we have to remember is that we are refinable, and thank God we are, because when you leave pieces of clay in the sun for a long time or just to dry up, it gets hard, right? You're making a sculpture, you got to do it while it's fresh. You got to mold it while it's fresh. And after that, it gets hard. Now, this is how we are women, and I'm talking to me too. Living alone for a little bit too long will make you harder because the farmer is not around, right? The sculptor is not around. The captain is not around. You got into your own way. You run your own ship. You do your thing your way. This is how I wake up in the morning. This is my morning routine. I cook at this time. I eat this way. I tolerate this much noise. I don't want children in my feet at this time. You have your rules and regulations. And when somebody comes into your life and says, well, I want you to follow my rules and regulations, you say, well, heck no. No, why should I do that? I'm a grown woman. And indeed you are. And you're also hard. You're also hard, right? And so that hardness cannot be just molded like before. It gets chiseled away. It gets like a sculptor has to take out now the knife and peel it and carve it into the shape he wants it to be. And thank Messiah for dying on the cross because he has forgiven us, and he has also acted like this in terms of we can always come to him and regret and pray and ask his forgiveness for the sins that we've committed in our lives. And then the men that comes along and we need to make some adjustments, we can ask the Lord to help us to adjust with him. And the fires that we go through is what refinement is about. So if you notice that when you go into this stage of life, you go through fires like never before. Like you had it easy when you were younger, but right now you're being refined like a hard piece of, mixture of clay with gold. There is silver with gold, but also a whole lot of dirt and rubble that needs to be chiseled out so that the purity of you can glow and shine. And this is what the Messiah wants to do in your life. He wants to refine us by fire. He wants to purify us and wash us and clean us. But that takes trials. It takes testing. People coming your way and testing you. You're lacking patience, you'll find somebody knocking on your door almost every day, testing you so you become more patient. You're lacking love, you'll find somebody coming to make you want to just hate them and be bitter towards them. But that's your opportunity now to go through the fire and be more loving. You're lacking the patience, the love, the gentleness, the kindness that the women should be showing, the hospitality, because you've been living on your own for so long. You didn't have to be hospitable and kind. You could just tell people whatever was on your mind and sit down and be selfish. And we do get selfish. We do want the toys all for ourselves. We don't want to share. And that selfishness is not from the Most High. And I'm talking to my sisters who are wives. And yes, if you can hear my conversation, I was a wife. I'm not going to go through my story right now. 25 years of great stuff here going. But I'm telling you, sisters, that you need to share your husband. One day, the Most High will give you the revelation about it. I'm going to take away these toys from your hands, my girls, because the Most High is preparing us. Isaiah 4, verse 1, that in the last days, 7 women will take hold of one man, and we are living in the last days. 7 women will take hold of one man and beg him to be the covering, to take away the reproach. And what does Isaiah mean, take away the reproach? It's not only the reproach of not having a child, but it's the reproach of being on the street, not having a covering. And right now, the world is telling you, oh girl, this is a proud thing to be independent of man. It's a proud thing to not have a covering. I don't need no man. I don't need no covering. Even my family's saying that. I don't need no. Oh, Deborah, what are you talking about? You're good. And every time they tell me you're good, they're telling me that what Yah said is not good. Because when Yah said that a man should be with a woman, that Adam was made to have Eve in his life, that I want to be in the order of things. And I don't want to be without a shepherd, right? I might survive really well on my little dinghy, and I might survive really well in a little pasture over there because the Lord has supplied me. But I would prefer to be in the shelter of a good man. And that is the goal for us, sisters. Not to be out there on our own, right? But we need to be refined, because in order to be taken in, very few men are going to have the spiritual maturity to refine you in the way that Yah would like. So it's a spiritual refinement I'm talking about. Not talking about physically, changing you in any way, but in your emotions, your characteristics, who you are, that is not really agreeable. That's what my word I'm trying to say. Because at a certain age, we're always right, sisters. I mean, if you listen to the conversations that I hear and you hear when women are interacting with a man, very few of them will say to the man, "You're right. What a good idea. Oh, tell me that again? I never thought of that." When last did you hear that going on? A man can say so many good things right in a conversation, and very few women will stop and say, "Hey, that's a great idea. You're right." Because we want to be right. We listen so that we can convey our own point, and we cut men off. And I'm saying we because I have a tendency to fall into that too. And I'm trying to ask the Lord so many times to refine me. I think He has helped me a lot in that as being a counselor, to listen more for the intention of understanding and not forgetting my point across, but for understanding and to convey to the person that you understood what they said before you respond, right? But the argumentativeness for no reason, bloody hell insisting that you have to be right. And if a man catches you in your delusion, if he catches you contradicting your own self and says that out loud, oh my goodness, you want trouble? A woman will just mash that up. Really don't like to be confronted with our own reflection, our own wrongness. We will argue to the grave. A point that means nothing. And little things we escalate and we make it bigger. And I think that's part of what women do anyway, because a man puts a little seed in our eggs and we make it into a full-grown woman by the grace of Yah, a full-grown child. We can escalate. We can grow things. This is what a field does. But we have to be careful with our tendencies to escalate the wrong thing and to feed into bitterness and make bitterness get bigger. And feed into somebody tempting you to be jealous and make jealousy become something that you're ready to kill over. To feed into the lies of the world, like the television going over there and the music going there, and then we make that into something that changes our minds, and now we are now hypnotized by the theology and the ideology of the world instead of being conformed to the Word of God, like Romans 12 says. All right, so we have to realize that welcome to the promised land. You, as a woman, just remember, you are vulnerable, right? You're breakable. You're always going to be bangable, so don't just go hopping on, no. You'll always be bangable. Bangable, breakable, moldable, some of us refinable, all of us. And the goal is for us to be cleansed and washed and refined so that a great end will come for our lives. Not either it's going to be, just accepting the fact that I'm single, And I'm going to continue encouraging my wonderful younger sisters to get ready for a marriage and get ready for a husband and to raise children and to be righteous and to be above the standards of the world in your personality. Change who you are so you're the most beautiful version of you, and yet uniquely you, beautiful you. And I want to encourage the women that are wives already, don't divorce your husbands. Don't jump out of the pen. Don't get out of the field. Don't jump off the boat. Especially if I'm hearing that there's no other reason other than this so-called other woman, this so-called adultery that is not biblically adultery, right? We got to go back to my previous episodes about what adultery is. If it's not adultery, he's not sleeping with another married man's wife, right? Because adultery depends on the status of the woman. If your husband, current husband, right now is looking at another woman in she got curves, she's beautiful. Well, congratulations, you got yourself a real man. Because real men are attracted to curves. They're attracted to beautiful women. And if that woman is single, he is allowed to consider buying her. I know, I said it. I mean, take her in. Take her into his flock. He has a right. He is biologically a man. And you gotta, guys, I would just continue for hours, and maybe I will, but I'm just starting this YouTube channel. Coming up next, we are also going to talk about the biology of men, biblical biology 101. Who is a man? What does he do? What's his function? And we, women, cannot change who he is. Just like we do not want him to come and change who we are. We should remain in our femininity. We do not want to change his masculinity and shame him for it. Right? If a man is attracted to a single woman, he is not lusting after anything that belongs to anybody else. He's allowed to do so. And he can take her in if he chooses, not even if you want to. If he chooses, he can take her in as a second wife. My thing, sisters, right now is to prepare you for the inevitable fulfillment of Isaiah chapter 4, verse 1, that it will happen, ready or not. Here it comes. I love you all from the heart. You know, I have to open up the scriptures before we close. Just one time here. Let's talk about 1 Peter 5, verse 8. Quickly, because I don't like to not open the Word of God. It's just a lot easier when you have a computer, but again, I do not have one. 1 Peter chapter 5. First Peter chapter 5, verse 7. Let's start there. Or actually even verse 6. Oh my gosh, this is so much in the Bible. 1 Peter chapter 5, verse 6. Therefore, humble yourselves, my sisters. Humble yourselves under the mighty hand of Yah, that he may exalt you at the proper time. There's a time for it, girls. Humble yourselves, casting all your anxiety on him because he cares for you. The Most High loves you. Be sober, spirit. Wake up. Be sober. Be on the alert, for the adversary, which is the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion seeking someone to eat up, someone to devour. And it's not going to be to you today. So wake up, sober. Being drunk on the street as a pretty woman is a bad look. Really bad look. And this is why you're coming back to call for wisdom, because we're sobering up and we love each other. Blessings, my sisters. Till next time.